In this video, I want to go over some of the challenges that companies go through when they're selecting a finished medical device for their combination product kits, and the three crucial moments within a life cycle that help determine whether or not that selection is successful, or if you get stuck trying to qualify a component where your hands are largely tied by decisions the supplier had already made because it's a finished medical device. Welcome back to Let's ComBinate. If it's your first time here, I'm Subi. I'm a consultant, trainer, and auditor, and I've spent my whole career in drug delivery system and combination product quality and industrialization. And as part of that experience, I've spent a lot of times managing suppliers, participating in the make-buy decisions, and also dealing with some of the ramifications of bad calls, like dealing with importer-distributor expectations or trying to qualify too late. And one of the challenges now in 2026 when it comes to these kinds of device selections is they're no longer optional. And in some cases, your marketing team requires it as a commercial requirement. In other instances, I've in my own experience seen regulators respond saying your product has too much risk where you need to introduce a component so that they'll de-risk it. And FDA has even given CRLs in this arena where they say in the current configuration, we can't approve it. As part of the CRL, they say you should put it with a needle or a vial adapter or whatever to help de-risk it. Or if you're moving from a hospital administration or HCP administered product to a home use, it may involve you changing the configuration and introducing a finished medical device so that the user has everything they need to be able to administer the component. Now, you get put in a position where you have to make a device selection, and what companies will do is they'll initiate the supplier selection. And when they go and they try and figure out what suppliers can meet their quote unquote expectations, they hear stuff like, we're already approved, cleared, we sell X billion from this site, it's already sterile, qualified, or we have X top 10 pharma customers. And what's lost in this situation is that just because a product is already approved does not necessarily mean that it's combination product ready. And if you are in a position where you need to buy a finished medical device for a combination product kit, you need to avoid some bad assumptions. Number one is that it's just a component in a kit, and that ultimately the responsibility is on the quote unquote legal manufacturer. Number two is that it's already qualified because FDA approved it, because FDA audited their facility, etc. Number three is that it meets certain characteristics, so it's okay. And what I mean by this is, let's say you need an 18 gauge needle for withdrawal of a product from a vial, and you need a 27 gauge needle for administration, like you need a withdrawal needle and you need an administration needle. And just by some of those very high level characteristics that you think, oh, it meets our expectation so long that it's approved in the market that we're using it in. And so the reality is when you're buying a finished device, it's not the same as a CMO, and it's not the same as a direct material supplier. It has different implications because what's baked in to buying that finished medical device is the supplier's product realization process, their QMS, their change management process, their packaging configuration, whatever evidence they generated for their validation, and how they do their sub-suppliers and outsourcing. In other words, when you're buying a device, you're inheriting that manufacturer's design, manufacturing, supplier decisions, quality decisions, whether they're good or bad, by the way. And the mistake is assuming that just because they're already on the market means that they're qualified for use. Now, how do you avoid getting blindsided by this? Because it can be very difficult. There are three crucial moments that you need to watch out for. The first one is before supplier selection. The second one is during supplier selection. And the third one is during qualification, in other words, after supplier selection. When it comes to before supplier selection, the most important thing is documenting your intended use and ensure that it's clear how the use of the finished device is going to be captured. During supplier selection, you're setting your expectations early and ensuring that the supplier understands what you need. And then during qualification, you're doing two things. One is you're not relying on what's available. And two, you're following a structured process. Let's dig into each of these. So the first one is before supplier selection. Before supplier selection, you need to ask yourself, are we within the intended use? Are we using the same patient population? Intended markets? Is it approved where we need it to be approved? And I think one of the things that is really difficult when it comes to intended markets or volumes even is that you want to have these assumptions baked in as early as possible to drive your selection. But a lot of times you don't have the information, particularly when you're working at a global organization, what the intended markets are. And what I've seen that's been really successful in this arena is to just assign probabilities. So rather than operating with a 0-1 mindset, think, what is the likelihood that we're going to go into a certain region? And if the likelihood is more than 50%, then we should consider it a requirement, even if it has not been endorsed, because it may drive certain supplier selections. And then when you're going through the actual supplier selection exercise, you can mark that as a yellow factor in whatever decision-making matrix you're using to say, this isn't really a requirement because it hasn't been fully endorsed, but they're not part of this market, or they already capture this market in case we want to go there. But it's important to understand whatever the requirements are during the time that you're doing the supplier selection. Are we changing the packaging or assembly? This happens a lot, in particular with certain components that come in sleeves of multiple because they're hospital products. And companies have to end up taking them apart one by one because there's only one or two in a kit. And so are we changing the packaging or assembly in a way that would impact the existing or historical qualification? And this is really important because it helps you understand, are we working within the existing validated finished device configuration or is there something different now? And then are there any known risks that you should be aware of for that kind of component that should be considered early on, irrelevant of supplier? So some examples here, multi-count sleeves of needles or vial adapters, and realizing that you need to separate during assembly. And that kind of process is sometimes very difficult to validate. Or another example is if you're using a vial adapter and your particular stopper configuration wasn't part of their qualification package. So you may discover an issue with, let's say, coring when you get to the qualification, or that you pick a device that meets all of your marks from a technical perspective, but you end up struggling with the fact that they're not approved in one of the markets that's crucial for your product. So that's before supplier selection. During supplier selection, we talked about not assuming your supplier understands what you need. That's a general rule of thumb. In particular, when it comes to these kinds of products, finished medical devices for kits, it's important to understand what your expectations are for them from a technical documentation perspective, from material information, validation evidence, change notification expectations, any kind of regulatory support that's needed, and any support you need for global markets. And then one thing I forgot to mention here, I should say, before supplier selection that is related, is importer, distributor obligations. Really critical, very important from a regulatory perspective, because overnight you may end up becoming a device importer because you have a kitted device. Any kind of packaging needs, packaging configuration needs, etc. And at one of the companies that I worked at in the past, we would actually train our suppliers on some of our expectations. And that was mostly used for custom, semi-custom components. But the kind of philosophical point stands that you should have a way to help ensure that a supplier understands what your expectations are. And in the automotive space in particular, they tend to have a lot of manuals that distinguish between custom OEM suppliers and off-the-shelf kind of suppliers and what kind of expectations they have for one or the other. Now, the last one is during qualification. And here what's really important is, like we said, one, not relying entirely on C of A, commercial info, the supplier, and B, using a structured process. And so what I've seen work in this kind of situation, I've done videos before on PPAP. We can do a different video maybe another time about the differences between how drug companies tend to do material qualifications versus how device companies do it. Either way, it's important here to, in some cases, generate your own information or at least have a rationale for why not. And in other cases, and in all cases, making sure you're using some kind of structured approach. And so here, borrowing from some of the concepts in a typical PPAP package, there's understanding what your requirements and specs are. Are you aligned with the supplier? If you're doing the same testing at incoming, are you using the same method? Have you actually assessed for equivalence between your method and their method? Do they understand what your expectations are? If you have the ability to influence anything, and that sometimes you really don't have the buying power or influence to make any kind of desired changes, but understanding whatever the requirements and specs are, understanding their process flow diagram, PFMEA, control plan for that product, doing first article inspection or appearance approval inspection, things like that. Evaluating process capability, acceptance sampling, sometimes doing 3 different lots, variations, and whatever validation evidence they have or that you need to generate as part of your ongoing assembly process. And from there, one of the biggest mistakes a company can make is that just because a product is commercially available, that it's automatically, up for your use case. And so your job is to make sure that whatever you're using, that it is aligned with whatever the context of use is for the approved device. If it's not, making sure you understand what those gaps are, setting your expectations up front to the extent possible. And if you don't have the ability to make any changes, suggestions, adjustments to the product, at least making sure that to the extent possible, you have a really good common understanding of what your situation is and that you're addressing the gaps, generating the data, and following a structured qualification plan. All of that will help you avoid trying to figure out a plan in the 90th minute. And so a commercially available device is for sure qualified for somebody else's intended use, context of use. When it comes to a combination product, your job is to make sure that it's qualified for your context of use, your intended use, your patient population, and then how it's going to flow into the production process and be used as part of your product and deal with your product interactions. And if you can answer those questions early on and you're following a structured process, the qualification and the confidence in the decision that you make with whatever supplier and device that you select becomes a whole lot easier. It's important to make sure that you have the right oversight during those 3 crucial moments. If you're interested in learning more deeply about PPAP, I've done a couple of videos on that in much more detail in the past. And that is it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please do share it on LinkedIn. It helps grow the show. Subscribe as always, and I'll see you in the next video.